Welcome to Bunch Formation, your newest favorite college football show. I'm Chris Vannini, and I just hope we have power for long enough to make sure we can finish this episode.
We'll see. I am David Ubben, and Chris, I know you're signed, but what's the buyout?
Welcome back, everybody. Thanks for joining the show. I know we were off the back half of last week. We wanted to kind of take a minute to decompress coming off of the season, but boy, we got a lot to talk about today.
Yeah, a lot
has happened.
We missed a lot.
A lot has happened. We got a good show today. A big news one. College football playoff changes are coming for 2026, even if it's not expanding. We got Dabo Swinney calling out Ole Miss. We got Duke suing Darian Mensah to try to keep him there. We got jersey patches. We got more. But first, David, we're recording this early Sunday because we weren't sure if you'd make it through the day.
Yeah, this may be surprising, but the Carolinas are not super well suited to handle cold weather. And so we're hunkered down in the house for now. Got some ice overnight. It's supposed to continue all day. If we lose power, it's probably going to be right in the middle of the NFL games. So we were talking about recording this afternoon, and then we were like, we should probably knock this out during the day. So we can.
the ice storm has passed through me. We've got about 3 inches of ice in the backyard with a dusting of snow over that. It's not going to get above freezing until like Tuesday afternoon, so it's just going to kind of sit there for a while. But the sun is out, so there's that. Woke up today. The wind chill was below zero, even here in Texas. So we got that. But it makes me wish I was back in Miami at that national championship game. That was some nice weather. I maybe should have appreciated it a bit more.
Must be nice, Chris. Must be nice.
Before we get into news and various things, I did have a couple other leftover Miami thoughts. Yeah. First off, shout out to Connell Diggin, our Irish friend of the show who joined us before the season. I saw him in Miami at the game. He's doing great. We'll probably have him back on again to talk about Ireland when that first game comes around, and David can talk about how much he hates everybody in that country.
Big anti-Irish sentiment coming from this side of the table.
That fits, I think, for the history of this country, really. The national championship game got 30.1 million viewers, the most watched college football game since the Oregon-Ohio State National Championship to cap the 2014 season. And it was a 36% increase from the Ohio State Notre Dame championship game last year. I've got a couple thoughts on my reasoning for it, but David, what did you think when you saw that? No, we don't usually like to talk TV ratings on here. They also really don't matter because all the TV deals have been signed for the next several years. It doesn't matter what conference got more viewers or not, but like, that's good for college. It's good for college football to get a big number like that.
So I have one major thought on this, and I'm actually writing about this at The Athletic, I think early this week. Big number. I think it could have been significantly bigger. I do think that it's hard to really nail down this tangibly. But coming into the game, it felt like there was not very much buzz for the game. And I think that it's also interesting that between the time that Indiana clinched a bid in the national championship and won the national championship, there were 10 NFL playoff games. Playing that game on a Monday night off of 3 really good NFL games and 1 NFL game that was played. I think there's a little bit of fatigue there. And I think that ultimately college football was served by having a real-life Disney movie playing out on the field, having a very memeable, interesting coach, and a semi-memeable quarterback. I do think there's some help there. But I think when you look back at the last few years, I think Michigan-Washington did 26. Last year did 22. It was really a concerning number. And those were much bigger brands, especially last year. Ohio State and Notre Dame, probably 2 of the 3 biggest brands in the sport, I would say, easily. Yeah. And for them to do that poor of a number, I think that this is a good number for now, but I think it could be bigger. And I wonder if the next time we do get an Alabama-Ohio State national championship game or an all-regional game where it is like an Alabama-Georgia, something like that, I do wonder if it will dip again. And I think the season just it drags on for a long time. We'll get into some of this later, kind of talk about AFCA, but I think it's a universal complaint that to be this late in January and still have college football happening is unnatural, and it's only getting worse next year. So good number, but I think the sport is still doing itself a disservice, and it just sort of got lucky that again, we're watching a Disney movie play out.
See, I feel a little bit different. I actually think this is pretty much as good of a number as you could have possibly hoped for. For it to be the most watched college football game in 11 years. Like that's even more than when we were ending the national championship game 2 weeks prior.
Okay, but Chris, think about this. Okay. I think Kurt Signetti said it. I think it's true. He was like, this is one of, if not the greatest stories in sports history. This is catnip to casual viewers.
Yes.
So I would say the fact that you only got 30, people knew about Indiana, but people were not that hyped about the game. It was almost like the story was as interesting or more interesting on the back end, knowing that Indiana had kind of finished the drill. I think we've been trained by the playoff getting kind of repetitive in the 4-team era and then getting a little too long in the 12-team era, that I still think that bigger numbers are possible. And I think that 30 is good, but I think it could be bigger.
Part of this is, by the way, we need to acknowledge Nielsen has adjusted their rating system over the last couple of years. So out-of-home viewing is now calculated more. That's why you're seeing NFL ratings spiking. Last year's overtime or last year's blowout Super Bowl had a higher rating than the overtime one the year prior, simply because of the way they calculate the ratings. That does account for part of the reason this was so high, to jump 36%. Another factor, Ohio State Notre Dame was the day of the presidential inauguration. So there was like a lot other things going on that had people's attention. So you kind of, that's why there's such wide of a gap, but it's still a crazy good number. And it comes down to 4 things for me in terms of why it was so good. Number one, Indiana, great story that drew in the casuals. Like the amount of people I know who Fernando Mendoza is because of whatever reason. And I got a bunch of comments from people being like, yeah, all my work meetings on Zooms, people were talking about Indiana. Like that was a story that drew in casual fans. That's one. Number 2, it was a good game. Came down to the very end. That's always going to do better. Number 3, you have the Heisman Trophy winner and the number 1 pick. That is going to draw in your NFL fans who maybe don't always watch college football. That was the thing I thought going into Notre Dame, Ohio State last year, which was like, if you're an NFL fan, like there's actually not a lot of guys here that you're like super into, because Jeremiah Smith was 2 years away from going pro, and neither of the quarterbacks are going to be first round picks. Fernando Mendoza is going to be the number 1 pick. That's going to draw in a lot of NFL eyes. And number 4, Miami is a national celebrity driven fan base. And we saw that on the sideline with Fat Joe, with DJ Khaled. Pitbull's doing a performance. Michael Irvin, they're doing Michael Irvin on SNL, which was a very, very funny bit. So how often is the national championship game mentioned on Saturday Night Live, a couple of days prior? So all of those factors are why I think the rating was pretty much as high as you could possibly hope for. And for it to be the highest in 11 years, I think is really good. We talked about it at the end of last week's episode. Well, we can get it later on when we talk about coaching convention stuff, but there's nowhere else to really put the game. And it's going to be even later next year, the 25th is what it is. But overall, like really great for college football to have a number like that. The NFL numbers this weekend are probably going to even be more gigantic. I think I saw wasn't the Patriots Texans game like the highest rating game on ESPN ever? I'm pretty sure I saw that.
Maybe
last week, which just goes to show kind of what that situation is. So,
by the way, quick Miami note before we move on to the real spicy stuff, Chris. Michael Irvin says he had not done coke in 20 years, not on any cocaine. He said he was on a podcast. A couple guys, forgive me, I don't recall who they were, but he was talking about. I
think Coke. Brandon Marshall's one. He's got a new show on Netflix or something.
He said, "You guys know Coke does not last 5 hours." Admittedly, I did not know that, but
I didn't know. Yeah.
you live, you learn, I guess.
Yeah, but that SNL bit, Cam Patterson, that guy nailed the Michael Irvin thing. That was very, Very funny.
We need more.
all
We
right.
did not get nearly enough Michael Irvin at the national championship game, at least on the broadcast, Chris.
So,
Having
I didn't
watched
see.
it.
Yeah, I didn't see the broadcast, so I don't know. I just saw him pregame doing a lot of interviews, like Sirius XM, and I just saw him yelling a lot. So I don't know how he was in the broadcast. So I guess I was not one of those 30.1 million viewers because I was watching it there. All right, check. If you want to check out the show notes to jump ahead to different things, we got timestamps in there. If you want to jump ahead to another part of the show, send your emails to bunchformationpod@gmail.com. Please send us emails. Now that we're in the off season and there's a lot less to get into, send us emails for episode ideas, for mailbag stuff, anything you have, because we're pretty open. We have some ideas of what we want to do. We want to do some interviews and stuff this off season, but we're going to try to consistently have a Monday show. And then depending on the week, if we have an extra Thursday show or not, but we're going to try to keep that schedule the same. Also, please follow us on social media. If you don't, I say this, but I usually don't promote it very much. Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube. If you like the show, please subscribe to us there. I post the clips, helps the show to get all that kind of stuff. And please leave us a 5-star review on Apple or a comment on Spotify. It really helps the show. Haven't had an Apple 5-star in a while, but we did get one on Spotify from Ben Horwath, who said, easily my favorite college football podcast this year. Way to stick the landing coming off of Until Saturday. 2 of my favorite moments, David attending a 10 a.m. Ludacris concert and Chris's father-in-law sharing his experience as a lifelong Hoosier. My only question, did I miss Chris ordering food to a similar restaurant during one of the national championship preview episodes while I was still while I was still mourning Ohio State's loss to Miami? Can't wait to see what you guys cook up for the offseason. So the answer and the results of our picks, David finished 78, 69, and 2. I finished 72, 75, and 2, which means David has won. He finished second on our Athletic National, thanks to Sam Kahn, friend of the show. But David has won the picks contest between the two of us. We need to figure out how and when we're going to do this. I had been assuming for a while that you and I would be together at the coaches convention in Charlotte and we would just do it there, which is what happened last year. I was not sent to the coaches convention. So I don't know the next time you and I are going to be together in person. It might be it might
be the summit in New York.
Yeah. So, and that's going to be in the summer almost, but we want to do it when we're together. So it may be a few months until we get to it, but David did win. So congratulations on that.
Thank you. I don't know when the parade is, but I appreciated them appreciating the on the ground reporting from the Ludacris concert. Sometimes I'll do like a tweet thread, but I think this is a good time to wax poetic on the season. Just like a fun football season. And we appreciate you guys that listen, that subscribe to The Athletic, because these jobs are crazy. And I was just thinking back, like all the things I got to do this year. Like got to go to 6 games in 5 days. I got to see Ludacris at 10 a.m. I got to have a front row seat to kind of a weird Belichick season. Got to go to Notre Dame for the first time. Got to see Fernando Mendoza. Got to go out to Oregon. I forget. I just had, just taking stock of this year and the things that 10, 15 years down the line I'll remember. That road trip's probably number one. The Ludacris concert at 10 a.m. I will be laughing about that probably when I'm 100. So
the funniest part, that was,
you guys appreciated it.
And that Ludacris concert, that was the Clemson game, right?
That was the Clemson game, which
is one of the most
forgettable.
Not just forgettable. That is one of the most lopsided Power 4 games I have ever seen.
Yeah.
North Carolina looked like high school kids out there. Clemson could have scored 200 points if they wanted to. And it was shocking how bad they were. Credit to North Carolina for rallying, though, and fixing that defense and actually playing pretty good down the stretch.
Chris, what was your favorite thing you did this year?
So let's see. What I do this year? I went to LSU for the first time.
Awesome.
Saw Brian Kelly in his last game. I'd never been to Tiger Stadium. Very cool setup. I got to go up to Oklahoma a couple of times and see kind of the revival of the Oklahoma program. I've got all my like leftover credentials here. I put some of them up on the wall behind me. I got to be there when SMU stormed the field against Miami, thinking Miami's season was done. I got to be on the field and behind the scenes with Tulane and John Summerall for their magical season that they were having. What else we got here?
I saw John at the coaches convention. He's doing well.
Oh yeah, good. We need to catch up with him. I'm sure we could get him on the show at some point here. I got to see North Texas sell out a game for the first time. They got stomped by USF, but that was very
Their
cool.
stadium is awesome. People don't recognize, like, that's one of the nicer G5 stadiums that's out there. It's like on the side of the highway. It's North Texas has really good facilities.
They may have the best facilities in a group of 5, to be honest. I mean, they've got an indoor that's really nice. It's just over there in Denton, and they haven't really. This is their first really good year in a very long time, but they've got everything you could want there. And then getting to be at a home playoff game for the second year in a row. Penn State last year, Oklahoma this year. Love that environment. And I went to just a lot of good games. Like 2 years ago, I think it was. Like every single game I went to was a blowout. And that's just was like, it was kind of deflating. Like you want to be a good game.
I didn't have a streak last year. Last year I had 4 consecutive games where the field was stormed. I forgot about that.
Oh yeah, yeah. Also, one thing, if you're watching on the YouTube, I pulled from Miami. What side here? We got a media lounge sign in the back. I stole this from every time I go to like a big event like the playoff or NCAA tournament, I try to like take something. And it's a tradition going back to when I was
stealing, Chris.
They're just throwing. I wait till the end. I mean, they're throwing it away. I'm not stealing it like when I first get there. But back when I was a student at Michigan State, basketball team always goes on a run, and so the student paper, you always have to take something from like the media room, and we put it up on the wall back at the newsroom. And so I kind of continued that. I've got elsewhere in my room, the entrance to my office. There's a big sign from the NCAA tournament a couple years ago, just says media interview room. We're like, that's a good entrance to my office. And then I saw this. I was literally, it was like 2 a.m. coming back to the hotel after the game. I'm with David Hale from ESPN, and I see the media lounge sign up on the wall, and I was like, "Oh, I want to take that." And David's like, "Yeah, that'll fit in your suitcase." And then. But I couldn't pull it off the wall. It was like stuck pretty well. And then there was just another one just laying there against the wall. So I grabbed that. But problem is it doesn't fit in my suitcase. My suitcase is actually kind of small. So if you can see it in the video, it's crooked. That's because I broke it in 2 different places to make sure I could fit it. But
if the police are listening or the FBI, actually it was Grogu that broke it. It wasn't Chris. So
yeah. But that national championship game, one of the most memorable we've ever had. That will go down as one of the greatest games I've ever been to. And seeing it and seeing Indiana, my family's relationship to Indiana, all of that, very, very cool. David.
Fun year.
Now that we're on to 2026, it means people are making New Year's resolutions to exercise more. I'm trying to do that once the ice melts. Be careful out there, everybody. You want to get involved in your communities. If you're a trainer, you're a coach, or you're someone who organizes a running club even, you need to use Poney. Poney, that's Poney, a new social scheduling app that makes getting your groups together much easier. They are the newest in-show sponsor of Bunch Formation, and we are a big fan of what they do.
The season's over, Chris. I'm getting ready to go back to Arkansas. We'll have like a big family dinner. I have a huge family. My sister's been using it to set up some of these family gatherings. You can do that on the small scale. But there's also 10 million organizers currently in the United States, and no other app combines advanced scheduling tools with payment collection like Poney does. If you're an organizer, you always got to juggle texts, Venmos, calendar apps, spreadsheets, all that stuff. Poney puts that all together in one easy app.
And this month, Poney is releasing its Pro Group Organizer feature, allowing you to collect payments directly from clients before they book. They're also releasing a private beta version soon where you can sign up.
And anytime we put on an event, everybody knows last-minute cancellations happen. It's part of life. Stuff comes up. But if you're an organizer, that can mean lost revenue. That's 20 to 30% of lost revenue for organizers sometimes. But Poney has automated wait lists. So if somebody drops out, that can automatically add the next person available and shoot them a message to confirm. And if you're a trainer, you might spend 10 plus hours a week on administrative work instead of teaching and doing the things that you actually want to do. Poney can eliminate last-minute scrambling and automatically keeps an event at capacity.
Your clients don't have to download the app either. You just send them a link with the info and Poney does the work for you. It's frictionless infrastructure with Poney, no problem. Download Poney today and make organizing effortless. That's Poney, Poney. Real plans with real friends and real clients made easy. Download Poney in the App Store or at letspony.com today. David, we haven't actually talked to Chris from Poney in a couple of weeks.
Hit him up.
Big Michigan guy. We don't know how he's feeling about Indiana winning the national championship after his Wolverines had done it a year ago. We'll have to check in. But all right, with that, it's time to get into the real news of the past weekend. To do that, we go into the media scrum.
Well, I don't read the newspaper because it's garbage.
I keep having to sip water. It is so dry right now. Is it like just because of how cold it is outside? We've got the heat on in this house. I keep having to sip on water because my throat's. Do you get that all? I get that all the time.
No, I would say I'm a very moist person, but I got my moose cup with some coffee going. We're good.
All right, good for you. All right, the college football playoff is changing next year. Now, you may have seen the headlines that the playoff is remaining at 12 teams. That is true. It is not expanding. I sat outside that meeting on Sunday for many, many hours, only for them to tell us, we still can't figure something out.
That is the bleakest part of the national championship experience, by the way.
Well, especially when there were like 15 to 20 reporters there this year. And,
did they at least have it, the meeting room, or was not right by an open set of doors? We were freezing last year at the Signia in Atlanta.
No. That reminds me, I don't even remember if I mentioned it on this pod. I was supposed to leave the playoff meeting early and Ralph cover it because I was supposed to go ride the Goodyear blimp.
Oh, yeah. This is 2 years Sunday. In a row, Chris. Yeah.
But it was canceled because a downpour happened. This is 2 years in a row I was supposed to get a ride on the Goodyear blimp at the championship game, and both times it was canceled due to the weather. We were supposed to do it last year.
Yeah.
You and I.
We were going to do a show up there.
Mm-hmm. We were going to do a podcast up there. But it was weather, too cold or something, couldn't do it. This year I was going to do it for some video stuff. Still didn't happen. So,
yeah, I will say, so next year, we'll see. I would bet that I probably will be there. Chris, I don't know if you will be there. We'll see. But we were debating doing a power ranking of blimp cities, the championships in Vegas next year. I feel like Vegas and Miami with two great blimp cities. Dallas and Atlanta, two not good blimp cities. So.
Anyway, that was supposed to be my playoff meeting day. Instead, it wasn't. But next year's college football playoff, 12 teams. Guaranteed 4 spots for your Power 4 conference champions. Guaranteed 1 spot for your group of 6 champion and 1 spot for Notre Dame if the Irish are ranked in the top 12. If you're keeping track. Yes, this is 4 different years, 4 straight years. The college football playoff is different. We had a 4-team, then we had a 12-team with buys for conference champions. Then we had a 12-team without the buys for conference champions. And now we're going to have a different way to guarantee the 4 spots. This is not a result of the 2025 season. This is not because Notre Dame was ranked number 11 and left out. This is not because James Madison got in and a second group of 5 team happened. This was agreed upon 2 years ago in the spring of 2024. And the reason was the college football playoff contract ends at the end of the 2025 season. It went from 2014, the first year of the playoff, to 2025. They signed a 12-year deal back in the day. So they had to sign a new one and kind of start completely from scratch. And in the old one, all the decisions had to be unanimous. And that led to a lot of gridlock. And the Big Ten, the SEC, threw their weight around in these negotiations, said, hey, we've gotten a vast majority of the playoff teams, in these 10 years up to that point. We have all these new teams after realignment. Maybe we go start our own playoff or something like that. So they had a lot of leverage at that time. And as a result, everybody agreed, okay, Big Ten and the SEC, you guys can determine what the playoff field looks like in 2026 and beyond if you just give us these guarantees for these conference championship spots. That was the trade-off. And that's why it's a little bit different this year, because it's a new contract. And not only that, the Big Ten, the SEC get 58% of the money Like the last place team in the Big Ten is now going to make more than the best team in the ACC in the playoff. And there's no more performance bonuses. If you win and you move on, that's not the case anymore. Miami won more than $20 million for its run this year. That won't be the case moving forward. And the Notre Dame part of it, it's why does Notre Dame get the special carve out? It's a few reasons. One, Notre Dame had made the playoff a couple of times. Like they're not a nobody program. AD Pete Bavacqua has a good relationship with Tony Petitti and Greg Sankey. And nobody really wants to force Notre Dame into a conference, or at least they didn't 2 years ago. Because one, they're kind of contractually obligated with the ACC if they do that. And two, if you're the Big Ten if you're the SEC, you don't want to push Notre Dame into the Big Ten. And so everybody agreed, okay, Notre Dame's got this threshold of 12. It was 12 or 14 if it went to 14 teams, but it's 12. And then everybody kind of forgot about it until Notre Dame missed the field this year. But that's a lot of me explaining a lot of things. David, how do you feel about all this?
People are really mad about the Notre Dame thing.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, whatever. Like, this is only going to come into play where they might miss it. And now that this rule changed, that they would get in very precise scenarios. It just so happens that we just lived one of them.
We just happen to have one,
so,
which is not going to
is.
happen again for two reasons. One, the ACC champion would have automatically been in. That would have been Duke this year. However, the ACC has already said we're changing our tiebreakers to make sure a Miami situation doesn't happen again. So in the ideal situation, all that would have happened was Notre Dame in, James Madison not in.
Yeah.
So.
It's whatever. I mean, it's fine. Again, if we're talking about these teams down there, in the double digits,
Yeah, that's always been my feeling too. Like, I don't have that much sympathy if you're ranked outside the top 10 and you don't get in. Mm-hmm. The only thing was Miami beat Notre Dame this year. And when we were making those direct comparisons, you have to put Miami in over Notre Dame. But in most other situations, Alabama, SMU the year prior, you don't have that much sympathy. So I like that it's staying at 12. I don't really want it to go to 16. But
I don't either.
Both the SEC and the Big Ten want to expand. The SEC wants 16, basically just add 4 to what you have now. The Big Ten wants to go to 24 and basically you kind of 24 interconference stuff, and the SEC is like, no way, we don't want to go to 24. The SEC is like, we're good with 16. So
I had two thoughts on that. One, like a lot of things in college football, just the dumbest possible way to get to a pretty good solution at the end of just staying. Two, I do buy into the conspiracy theory that so much of the Big Ten's plan is just the fact that Fox doesn't have a piece of the playoff.
Well,
and if you have a 2014 playoff, Fox is going to get some piece of the postseason, and they don't have that now. And that's the Big Ten's key media partner. I do think there's some, I do buy into that a little bit.
It is, but it's a bit disingenuous on their part and Joel Klatt's part and stuff like that, because Fox could have a part of the playoff. I just mentioned the contract just ended. We went through this 2 years ago. We were going through the bidding process of who's going to broadcast the college football playoff, and ESPN ended up getting it because Fox didn't offer nearly enough money to be a part of it. I mean, like 3 years ago, Kevin Warren was like, we want multiple networks involved, like it's the NFL and all this kind of stuff. But it turns out they didn't get the bids that they wanted, because those first round games are actually not that valuable. And then as you said, you got Thursday, Friday semifinals, you got a Monday championship game. It's not ideal. So if Fox wanted part of this, they could have gotten it. And now we're starting a new 6-year contract that ESPN has it. So like, keep that in mind when you see Fox saying that. If they wanted to, they could have paid up and gotten this playoff, and they didn't. So what was your other point?
No, that was it. It sounds like the playoff, experiencing life in the transfer portal a little bit. So
and so like we've done this for 2 years now, the 12-team playoff, and it's been really, really good.
Yeah,
like there's been no real drama over who won it all. The teams that have won it and made the championship absolutely deserve to be there. You have a little bit of drama over who misses and doesn't miss it, but they were both defensible in the end. SMU over Alabama was more than defensible. Miami over Notre Dame was more than defensible. And if you're upset about the 2G5 thing, which was a fluke, it's not happening anymore. So like, I want that threshold to make the playoff to be very high, because it has to be to keep the regular season from being important. If you're
Yes.
letting in 8-4 teams into the playoff, then like the regular season loses so much value. So I
Yes.
like that it's at 12. They're stuck here despite what they want, and they're gonna dumb their way into keeping this as a pretty good setup, I think. So
Chris, should we get to some mess here?
let's get to some mess. Dabo Swinney, never one to hold his feelings in, called out Ole Miss and head coach Pete Golding for tampering late last week. I think it was Friday. So Cal transfer linebacker Luke Farrelly, he entered the portal after it opened in January, signed with Clemson on January 7th. Dabo said Swinney signed with Clemson, moved to town on January 11th, rented an apartment, bought a car, began taking classes, and was in team meetings before Ole Miss started pursuing him. And then he eventually re-entered the portal on Thursday and signed with Ole Miss. And Dabo Swinney gives this long press conference. He's laying out specific dates, times of calls and text messages.
It's good journalism, for being frank.
Extremely. We love the transparency. And he said that Farrelly was in class when he got a text from Pete Golding that said, as David said at the beginning of the show, I know you signed. What's the buyout? And Dabo said they reached out to Austin Thomas, the GM at Ole Miss, and basically said, knock this off. Like, we know what you're doing, knock it off. And Thomas said, I don't want to be a part of that, but Pete Golding is going to do what he does. And a quote from Dabo, there's tampering and there's blatant tampering. Tampering 101 is when you're talking to kids who aren't in the portal. Tampering 201 is when you've already negotiated the deal when the kid's not in the portal. Tampering 301 is when you've got a kid who's gone in the portal, signed somewhere, moved there, gone to classes, and you're texting them while they're in class. That's a whole other level of tampering.
So this is, I think, an important point, because one, people have been complaining about tampering a lot, but some of that has died down. And I think the reason this is happening is twofold. One, if you were ranking the coaches that have done the least amount of tampering, I would bet you that Dabo would be in the top 1%. So this is it's a big reason why Dabo is willing to like drag this out into the street and into the light and let people see it. Because I don't think that there's a lot of people that would be like, well, let me tell you what you did last year. I don't think there's a lot of that with Dabo. Two, this situation that he's talking about, it is a whole nother level of tampering. I was at the coaching convention. We'll get to some of that later. I talked to some coaches about tampering, and most of the coaches are kind of just shrugging. You know, this is a huge thing 3 years ago. And in a lot of those coaches' meetings, the NCAA basically said, y'all are on your own. We're not going to police this. If you report it, we might try to do something. But a lot of coaches, I've heard a lot of stories of coaches reporting stuff and nothing happens. But at a lot of these coaching conventions, there's a lot of stress because the portal is happening. But it used to be, once the kid actually attended a class, they could breathe and say, okay, like, we got him. You know, Dylan Gabriel a couple years ago, that was a situation where he had committed to Oklahoma, or was it? He ended up at Oregon. I forgot where he had gone. UCLA. Ended up at Oregon. And he hadn't gone to class yet. But then once he goes to class, it's kind of locked in. So this specific situation where all that stuff had happened, I haven't heard about this happening. I mean, Chris, correct me if I'm wrong here, if you've heard stuff. This is a whole nother level of tampering. Like, this is not a situation that I've heard happening maybe at all to this level. And I will say one thing that you did forget out of this, that was maybe my favorite piece of this. Listen, it's a cutthroat world out there. Leverage is leverage. But his agent did say to Clemson, if you will give us another $1 million, we'll give you all the material to turn in Ole Miss. And Clemson said, nah, we're good. We're good. Listen, you got to find leverage where you can find it. Very funny subject. Again, I think this is emblematic of a lot of the problems that are in college football. But I do think I'm okay laughing at it because I get why Dabo's frustrated, and I am somewhat sympathetic to that. But also, we're talking about where a linebacker is going to be playing college football. It's not life or death.
No, but
problem. But
it's like everybody does this complaining about various things, and everybody pushes the envelope absolutely how far it can go. And we're going to talk about this later with like, you don't have to do this. If a guy has already transferred and signed and has started class, you don't have to go after him. Like,
come on.
That is where it comes down to coaches. Coaches have created the environment that they hate. Like the calendar is what it is because the coaches wanted it that way. The rules and the tampering and all the stuff is because the coaches. Coaches are the ones doing it.
And I will say, Chris, too, this even goes back to like the quality of life stuff, because I remember talking to coaches about this 10, 15 years ago, whether it was recruiting, whether it was all the stuff that makes the quality of life
camps.
Satellite camps, all the things that make coaching quality of life as bad as it is, or because if coaches take time off or don't do something, then they know somebody else is doing something. And this is kind of built and built and built. Now it has bled into roster construction. And this is kind of where we're at. Because again, anytime I hear a new rule, my first thought is, okay, well, I'm very curious how the coaches are going to try to get around this.
Yeah.
And that's just kind of how it's always been since I've been covering the sport.
And so I don't know what, Dabo taking this public is fascinating. Because like we said, we've talked to coaches who have said, hey, I turned in stuff to the NCAA on tampering and they didn't do anything. And I do think some of that guy talks to someone, convinces him to go in the portal, go somewhere else. Like that is like the 101 level tampering. This is to a whole other level. And the NCAA, Dabo doing this and going public forces the NCAA to address this or do something. Because if they don't, you're going to hear about it from Dabo. Like he's clearly going to want to.
And he's got a big microphone.
Ole Miss has not said anything about it. Golding sent out a shark emoji tweet on Saturday, but I don't know if that was relevant to
I think they got another guy from the portal, but I think it's just worth hitting. Like, this is not your older brother's version of tampering. Again, we'll get into some of the coaching convention stuff, but most of the coaches, when it comes to convincing guys to go in the portal, like, it's not even really tampering anymore because all these players have agents, and usually the agents will tell you, hey, this guy's probably going in the portal, or a team can reach out to an agent and say, hey, we need a guy here. Would your guy have interest in going in the portal? Coaches aren't even complaining about that. That's just kind of like what the sport is. And they're not okay with it, but like, you can't, I mean, this is what the world is. That's like when the Big Ten used to complain about flipping recruits. It's like, guys, like, come on.
There used to be, when Urban Meyer came into the Big Ten and started recruiting guys who were committed to other schools.
That was really scandalous.
That was a scandal in the Big Ten and upset the other schools. And Brett Bielema was really upset about it. That was just recruiting a guy who's committed. There's a handshake agreement between the coaches. You wouldn't do it. But that is an example of coaches setting the tone with each other.
Yeah.
And the Urban Meyer came and changed that. Whether you thought it was good, bad, whatever, that's when you start to lose that level of trust within the coaches. So we'll see. Like you said, it's a linebacker. It's not a starting quarterback or whatever. But I'm glad Dabo said this. I'm glad he gave us dates, times, because everybody tries to keep this stuff secret.
We've been waiting for this. We've been talking, Chris. We've been saying this for 2-3 years. Don't just say we got something tampered. Like, show us. And they pushed Dabo over the edge. And seeing all the facts of the case as Dabo interpreted them with, receipts and stuff, I can't blame him at all. I would be furious if this had happened to me because, again, it's just so blatant. And, again, it's not even working through an agent. Apparently, the agents didn't even know this was happening. The thing that does drive coaches insane is when it is direct coach-to-player contact. That's when coaches are like, this is the kind of tampering that drives me crazy.
And I will say, to the point the agent didn't know about this. Now, the agent obviously then tried to use it into leverage. But with the Damon Williams situation, I talked to some agents who said, is this good or bad? This guy signed a deal and now he's trying to leave. And the agents I talked to were like, that's not good. Like, you got to have a relationship between everybody. In fact, Damon Williams' agent dropped him because of that. Because these agents have a relationship with coaches because they want to get guys in good spots. And what happens is, as you get late in the season, agents have their list of guys who are going to go in the portal. They send those lists out to coaches. Hey, do you need a defensive back? Here's who I've got who's going to be available. And I think Barry Odom actually had a quote recently at Purdue where someone
he said he accidentally got an email.
Someone sent him the list of the Purdue guys who were going to be available, which is, but that's how it goes. So that takes us to Darian Mensah and Duke. Darian Mensah, Tulane quarterback 2 years ago, left, signed with Duke. It was reported at the time, a 2-year deal, upwards of $4 million a year. And I believe Mensah had already said he was staying at Duke for next year. And instead, like the last day of the portal, he announces he's going in. And everybody's reporting it's probably going to Miami. And Duke sues him over this, over his NIL contract. Says you can't do this. Basically, the Damon Williams situation at Washington a couple weeks prior. A court ruled in a temporary order that Duke can't stop Mensah from going into the portal, but Mensah can't go play for another school. And there's another hearing, I think this week, I think the 29th maybe. So there will be more news on this later in the week. But we're now starting to see legal battles over these contracts and what is enforceable and what is not. And I think similarly to Damon Williams, it's a situation where I don't think these players are sympathetic figures anymore. Like it was different when you were not getting any money and the coaches wouldn't let you transfer and all these kinds of things. Now you've got guys who are making millions and announcing they're staying and then going back on their word. And I don't know legally what's going to happen here. It's being spun by different sides both ways. But like I said, agents I talk to don't like this. They don't like that their guy agrees to come back and then goes back on his word. The agents, for the most part, don't want their guys to do that. That is bad for the player. It's bad for them. It's bad for the relationship because that agent's going to have other players who he's going to want to pitch to the coach. And if the coach is pissed at the agent, that impacts the agent's business. And the agents are dealing with family members and other people and hangers on and these people who are telling kids to go in the portal. Hey, you're making $2-3 million. Go in because you can make another $1 million. And that is where I think some of these players need to listen to counsel and understand, like, you can't just always just jump at the highest money. It's not the best thing. But what do you make of the whole message there?
I think one of my questions with all this is, obviously college football has perpetual free agency. And I don't know a lot about the inner workings of the NFL. I haven't covered the NFL really. But we never really see this in free agency where players are like flipping and like going. I don't know if it's because the CBA makes these contracts ironclad and everybody knows this. But the thing that's been curious to me is I don't know why we
here's part of what here's part of what that is.
The courting process, but I don't know that.
But
seen this.
Guys, like when the agent leaks to the reporter that the NBA or the NFL player is signing a deal with the team, they then don't back out of that deal.
Yeah.
Like it's going to be signed. And I think that's what you're kind of seeing in college football, where these things aren't fully ironclad and they're being reported that they're staying, or they're reported that they're committed somewhere as a transfer before they've actually signed. And that's where the reporting gets a little bit weird on it too.
I think I just don't know why we're seeing so many of these late flips when we don't see that in sports. I mean, can you remember a single one ever in free agency in the NFL or the NBA where a guy like said he was going somewhere? I'm sure maybe I'm forgetting one, but it feels like we have a bunch of these now every year. And I don't really know exactly why that is.
I think the media is part of that too. And like, we don't do the bit by bit portal recruiting stuff as in terms of like guys visiting, guys expected to enter, guys expected to commits, signs. And like, again, in the NFL, you're not telling, Adam Schefter, my guy is signing there unless he is signing there.
Mm-hmm.
And here, because everybody in the NFL knows what everybody's doing. And in college, you're seeing a lot of public leverage being made through leaking stuff to reporters. I think it's sometimes it's like, hey, let's put out that our guy's thinking about entering the portal because then maybe that collective will come up with some more money to keep him. And these things are very, very fluid. Like DJ Lagway committed to Baylor and then didn't sign for like 2 weeks.
Yeah.
It was still visiting other schools. So I think the media environment is part of that too. But again, I don't think that's good. I think there needs to be, people need to know that for us in the media, if we've reported a player is going to somewhere to transfer, then they have to go there. And if they don't, that reflects poorly upon you as the reporter, who then should not trust the agent for telling you something that didn't end up happening. And it's a very different world on that front. But Mensah, Duke's suing him. He can't go to another school. Can you bring Mensah back at this point? Like, Washington brought DeMond Williams back. He has apologized and all this kind of stuff. Can you mend this relationship?
I mean, part of it with the DeMond Williams thing was it was only 2 days. This Mensah thing, we're at what, a week and a half where this has kind of been like, I don't imagine he's been around much. I think that giving that some time to fester, I don't know. I would say no, but I don't know. Maybe you never say never, but I would say probably not. But the flip side of that is if you're Manny Diaz, like, what's plan B? You're muted, Chris.
I'm sorry. Plan B may be Walter Eggett, the quarterback at San Jose State, who is visiting.
I like him. He's a good player, but he's not Darian Mensah.
No. And so you got teams like, they're all preseason, top 25. We're waiting on, is Duke going to have Mensah, or is Miami going to have Mensah? Is Ole Miss going to have Trinidad Chambliss? Like, we don't really know on a lot of that front. So we'll have more on this on The Athletic as it goes on. We've had some really good reporting on it. To that media point, by the way, Darren Heitner, who we've all dealt with, the agent for Mensah, or the lawyer, he's representing Mensah. He briefly represented DeMond Williams. He had told people publicly that the order was in favor of Mensah. And then a day later it comes out publicly and it's not. It's really more in favor of Duke. So that's where, again, it's like believing what certain people are saying is very, very tough. And I can't blame fans if they don't exactly know what's going on either. Another legal case, basketball, but it applies to football. Alabama basketball player Charles Bediako, he was given another year of college basketball after playing 3 years in the G League for 3 different teams. The NCAA said, no, you can't do this. You've already played college basketball and you left. You take it to not only a court, but you take it to a state court in Tuscaloosa County. And the court says, no, yeah, he can play because he has 1 more year left on his 5-year clock. His first year was 2021 at Alabama. And so it's a little bit different than the Baylor guy and some of the other international guys who never played college. This guy did and left. And the NCAA is, for all the people hating on the NCAA is trying to not let this happen. And it is being forced upon them because now everybody's taking it to state court, because state court is generally going to be more favorable. It came out in Front Office Sports that the judge who ruled this is like a big donor to Alabama. And so, like, could this, you wanted to talk about this too. Could this happen for football, where a guy who went pro, didn't work out for whatever reason, comes back to college? It's not out of the realm of possibility right now.
So, a couple things with this. One, I watched a little bit of this on Saturday. Surreal. Like, legitimately a surreal scene. I remember Charles Bediako, like a good player. I felt like they were just doing like a remember some guys moment, but this was the actual game. Just watching it was just like, I can't believe that I'm watching this. It all happened very, very fast.
He's still listed on the roster on his G League team, by the way, on the website.
2, I don't know how this, if you really press it, how this is not a precedent that can be set and duplicated. Obviously, in football, it's probably a little bit different because you have to play college football for 3 years.
Yes, that's a big
before you can go, and that's a big part of it. Whereas in the NBA, it's a little bit different. You only need 1 year, so the number of guys that are in the pros and floundering, that their 5-year clock is still active, is going to be a lot larger in basketball than in football.
Yes,
but there's definitely some guys, and if you press against it, I don't know how it doesn't work out in your favor. But this goes back to what we were talking about earlier in the day, Coach, or early day about coaches. There haven't been any coaches that really have gone scorched earth Dabo style on Nate Oates. But the coaches are driving this. Like, if Nate Oates just says, we're not going to do that. We don't have
the Alabama basketball coach.
Yes. And I get the pressure to win and do everything you can to win. And on some level, like, I respect that, but there's lines to this. And when you're sort of undercutting the whole purpose of college sports and the identity of college sports. It's just so blatantly stupid. Like, I get why it holds up legally, and I don't really have any arguments there, but it's just like,
I mean,
at the end of the day, it's kind of just like a, come on.
Well, Nate Oates, like a couple of weeks ago on the Baylor topic, was like, yeah, this isn't good. This takes away opportunities for high school kids and yada, yada. And it's like, I think part of what's making it so ridiculous for basketball too is that these guys are joining in the middle of the season.
Yeah.
Like that does
and
make
it's
it a
happening in a hurry. I'd like to know more about, like, whose idea even, like, was this? You know, it felt like it all happened really, really fast, where it was like, this is kind of a thing, and then it's not a thing, and then they go to court, and now it's like, oh, he's playing on Saturday. It's like, what?
And it's not exactly a legal precedent because, again, it's a local state court and it's not a federal thing, which you're seeing a lot of these things taken to state courts. You'll get a more favorable ruling, but you can't do a federal restraining order like the Diego Pavia thing opened up the door for a lot of players. This is only.
But the reality, Chris, is there's a lot of judges who have a lot of interest in making sure state U is thriving.
Yes. So when schools leave conferences and then they ultimately have a legal fight with their conference over the exit fees, the schools file their cases in local state courts. I went through this when Conference USA realignment was happening. The court up in Marshall, the court down at Southern Miss, the court at there was one other place. I continually check all these state courts because that's where they're going, and because you'll often get a favorable I'm not calling out the necessarily calling out the bias of the judicial system, but it's more of a home court advantage on that point. And so
a lot of these are elected positions, Chris, and if you are helping the local sports team thrive, well, that does wonders for your re-electability. That's just the reality of the world that we live in.
If you're an NFL player, if you're a college football player, you go pro early. You're a 7th round pick, but you don't really make it through training camp and you get cut. And there's not a minor league to go to. Can you go back to your school and say, hey, bring me back. Come on, let's go.
I think we'll see this next year, Chris. I don't know how you wouldn't.
It's so, like, I talked to a couple people about this before the Alabama one had happened, but I talked to people about the Baylor situation. I was like, because in hockey, college, I'm going to write a story about this. If you're a reporter listening to this, please don't steal the story idea. I called it first. Hockey, you can draft a guy's rights and he just stays in college. And then eventually when you need him, you come to an agreement and he comes out of college. So, like, it's different for every sport. Baseball, if you decide not to go out of high school, you got to go to college for, I think, 3 years. I think
it's 2, but maybe it's 3. Yeah.
Yeah. So like it's a little bit different for every sport. Football has never really had that problem because guys could only go pro with 1 year of eligibility remaining. You had to be 3 years out of high school, basically. Or if you're redshirted, you got 2. It's different now. And like some people, like Brett Bielema has called for, like, hey, if a guy goes pro and doesn't get drafted, let him come back to school. That's different, by the way, than a guy playing for a couple of years in the pros and then coming back to school. So it is possible this is going to happen in football. And coaches and people I've talked to, they don't like it. They're like, I don't really want that. I want to go through spring with my team. I don't, we don't really have space even because of rosters being cut down and stuff like this. Not really sure how it would work. None of the coaches or ADs I talked to think it will happen for football for cultural reasons, but also don't want it to. But it's only going to take
skeptical.
It's only going to take one person to want to do it.
They don't have space until their left tackle tears his ACL in week 2 of camp, and they got a guy that's floating on a practice squad, and they say, "Hey, we got $1.5 million here for you." It won't have a problem until then. My favorite part of this, by the way, was like some of the analysis of him coming back. It's like, he's not rusty. This guy looks like he's improved. He's playing so well. It's like, yeah, he's been playing professional basketball for 3 years. Of course he's better. He's not rusty. He's been working out with I forget what the team was that he's playing with. I did like Tennessee won the game, and then
Tennessee beat Alabama. Yeah, he comes back and plays a game. They lose the first game, and then Tennessee, who they beat, tweets at the G League team that he was
I think
on.
it was another
said,
G League team, but it was very funny.
So it said like you're next or something like that. So that's a good way. Like
Well
these
played,
people are
Jason.
these people are gonna become villains now. Like Baylor,
Yeah.
Alabama. Like nobody, unless you're a specific fan of that team, nobody wants this. Nobody
No.
likes this.
And it's interesting. Like he was given a hero's welcome in Tuscaloosa, and I think the first time they go on the road, I assume they're playing a road game this week at some point, barring ice apocalypse. That it's going to be bad. It's going to be really bad. Like a scene like I'm not sure we've seen in college basketball. I mean, who was the last real college football or college basketball villain? Like people that like just like everywhere they went.
Brandon Miller on Alabama a couple years ago.
Yeah, Brandon Miller, but even that was like it was such a serious situation that was almost like to boo him was almost making light of it, if that makes sense. Like I get that you didn't like it, but it was like almost like this isn't like sports hate, this is like real life stuff.
Yeah, but he also
but Brandon Miller is probably the last one.
Yeah.
But this will be way worse.
Because remember, Nate Oates said that was after the murder. Nate Oates said I was talking with somebody about this in Miami because he was there. But Nate Oates said, yeah, we brought in Ray Lewis to talk to the team.
Yeah, don't
remember that? Yeah, so Ray Lewis.
I do recall that, yes. But yeah, I mean, I guess maybe Hansborough, but Hansborough was like
that's 20 years ago. No,
I know, but that's my point. It's like I don't like I think this is gonna be like scenes on the road that we have not seen in college basketball.
Yeah.
Maybe ever. Like just universally hated.
In terms of the big picture here, which is always like people always wonder, is it going to be get rid of eligibility rules where if you're in college for however long you can be on the team? Because there's no rule against going to college for 8-10 years, whatever. Chris Farley did it in Billy Madison. But the NCAA, for the most part, is winning. It has won the majority of its cases on eligibility. I know we remember the ones they lose. The Diego Pavia one and this one, but they're generally winning them. And even the courts that rule against the NCAA are also usually saying, we are not saying no eligibility. We're ruling on just a specific situation because there is an anti-competitive case to be made or a pro-competitive case to be made that the eligibility rules, you only get X amount of years, that provides opportunity for high school kids to keep that going. So far, there's been no indication anybody really wants to get rid of all eligibility, which is, I know, the concern a lot of people have. But we keep inching closer and closer to these weird things.
Chris, I'm feeling charitable because I'm willing to go to the next part of the show without calling you out for mixing up Tommy Boy and Billy Madison. So let's keep it moving.
No, it's when
you said Chris Farley went to school for 7 or 8 years in Billy Madison, which they're closely aligned movies, but two very different films.
Isn't that the movie? Is that not the movie where he says some people go to college for 7 years?
Yeah, that is Tommy Boy. David Spade says the line.
Okay.
Now, Chris Farley is in Billy Madison, which is also about going back to school after graduating a long time ago. However, they're not the same film, and that line comes from Tommy Boy.
Okay.
I said I was
That's my fault.
I guess not.
we regret
out here.
We regret the error. Last big one here. Jersey patches are coming to college football and college basketball. You're all going to hate this. I know. I hate it. I'm sorry. It's not my decision.
People hated field logos. Whatever. It's fine.
That's a lot different. Effective August 1st, all Division I teams will be permitted up to 2 additional commercial logos on their uniforms and apparel, and 1 additional on equipment during the preseason and regular season, with an additional 1 for conference championships. Patches are limited to a maximum of 4 square inches per logo. The various sport subcommittees are going to determine restrictions on their own sports. You've seen this come to pro sports.
Yeah.
I think we've accepted it. I think it looks tacky, but
it does.
It's also not something it hasn't gotten to a point where it like takes away that much joy for me because I don't see it that much. I don't notice it. I
think it's different. Like NASCAR, like when the guys get out, it's like, whoa, like take it easy. Like the NBA jerseys, I really don't notice it unless you have like kind of a weird brand on there. Like I think the Thunder I think
They
have
got
a
the Loves.
The
They got
Loves
Loves,
deal,
yeah.
and it's like I recognize that gas station, but also it's like in such stark contrast to the rest of their jersey, where it's like, all right, take it easy. But generally, like they kind of blend in. I don't know. I just don't care that much about this.
So
It's
the idea is this is going to bring in a couple more $1 million for schools when they need any money they can find, and they're begging it from you, the fans.
there's a lot worse things you can do for more money, like kill the Pac-12. So when it comes to killing the Pac-12 or wearing a jersey, I just don't have the energy to be mad about a jersey logo when we don't have a vibrant West Coast college football league.
One of my thoughts, though, is like, where are you even going to fit it? Because I don't know if you've noticed football jerseys these days. There are not many. There's no more space on the front.
Yeah, we got the SEC graduate patches. We got
you got conference logos. You got your apparel logos. If you're in the postseason, you got a bowl logo. Like there's if you're a captain, you've got a C on there. Like there's not a lot of if you got your team's name on the front above the number that's on there. There's not a lot of space up there. So I don't know exactly where this is going to go. It's going to be annoying. We hate it. Don't worry.
Yeah.
David, was there anything else you wanted to touch on?
Chris, we missed you at AFCA. We had a good crew. It's a good time. It's good to see people. Obviously, attendance was down. That was kind of the story of the week, I think.
Coaches convention for people who don't know. AFCA.
The coaches convention. Chris and I talked about this a little bit last year. It's a very fun event. There's like 10,000 coaches that all come to a city. And a lot of them are high school coaches, but a lot of college coaches come and hang out. A lot of them are doing interviews for position coach jobs. Some of them are speaking. But this year, the convention fell right in the middle of the portal window. So there were a lot of head coaches who came in for the meeting where a lot of them were hoping that they got to talk about the calendar because that was the spiciest talking point of the day. But they only talked about eligibility and redshirt rules. They thought they were going to be able to get 5 for 5 pass where it's 5 years to play 5 years. That did not pass for basically legal concerns. They added the redshirt rule from 4 games to 9 games, which is very stupid.
Let's talk about
for the sort of casual fan, but the reality is that practically it's a 5 for 5 rule. But just makes you less likely to get sued.
So the coaches proposed to the NCAA committees 9 games and you get a red shirt as opposed to the current 4.
It used to be 0. When did we go to 4? It was like 6 years ago, 5 years ago?
Yeah, I want to say something around that time.
It's still 0 in most sports, if I recall.
It is. It's by sport. And so people said this is dumb. Why not just do full 5? You can't just do full 5 because if you do that, you will have a bunch of players sue you saying, hey, I didn't get 5 years. Where are my damages? It's exactly what happened with the House settlement. Once NIL was allowed, you have all these players suing saying, hey, I didn't get my NIL. You get your damages, and it's a couple $2 billion in a settlement. So you can't go straight to 5 for that reason, because then you're going to have that. Also, if you go straight to 5, you're going to wipe out a whole class of high school kids, because all of a sudden everybody will have an extra year. It's basically what happened with the COVID year. The COVID waiver year, like really, really hurt that class of high school players, because suddenly everybody could come back and there's a limited number of spots. So that's why they don't want to do that on the full end. We don't know if the 9 game is going to pass or not. The NCAA has talked about 5 for 5, but they're basically like in a holding pattern right now, which is like, look, we're being sued. There's a bunch of things going on. We don't really want to open this door right now. So I don't know if it's going to pass or not, but that was the compromise.
Yeah, people really hated it, but I mean, all the coaches in the room want to get there, but it may have to be sort of incremental.
Because all the coaches
9 games. 9 games is a lot of games. It's basically 5 for 5.
Yeah, basically you don't play your non-conference, G5 games essentially. Because a bunch of coaches were calling me in the fall saying, "Hey, is that 5 for 5 going to pass? Because we need to know now. Because if we can, we're going to redshirt a bunch of guys, or we're going to offer them to come back and do these things." And ultimately, NCAA doesn't want to touch it right now. I don't know if they will touch this or not, but the coaches have a track record of pushing something and then it happens.
Yeah. Chris, the calendar was obviously a hot topic. We kind of had a notebook of just all the stuff that we heard from the coaches convention, because these things, it's a lot of chatter. a lot of things that people are talking about. We did have a quote from a coach in there, a head coach at the FBS who went 5-7 this year. It's like, this is a great year to miss a bowl because the last 3 weeks have been hell. And he didn't have to worry about getting a team ready. Chris, there's a lot of momentum from coaches to try and move the season earlier. I think there's two things that surprised me. One, just talking to coaches, a lot of support to start the season week 0. And a lot more coaches are okay with killing spring football and going to a less contact NFL OTAs sort of style. I thought that might be a sticking point because spring football is a lot of what is pushing a lot of this calendar stuff because you want to get guys in for spring. You want to get all this stuff happening. We got to have our roster for spring. That's the big reason why the spring portal window can't happen. It hurts people academically. There's a lot of issues with it. A lot more coaches, I think almost the majority, I would guess, are okay with saying, hey, spring football, we don't really have to have that. We could do something in May or June at the end of the spring semester. I just want to know. The main thing that coaches are against is stepping on a practice field with a team that they're not going to have in the fall. That's kind of the central issue because they've experienced this for 3 years now, where you practice in the spring and then, you go through the portal. You go through the spring portal window and you got a bunch more guys leaving. Now, for the people at the top of the food chain, that was almost like a blessing because you could figure out in the spring, oh, these guys can't cut it. We're going to process them out. But for a lot of the coaches at the bottom of the food chain, from the G5 level, even like the smaller P4 level, and certainly at the FCS level, you talk to those coaches, they're like, I lost 24 players that I wanted to have after spring. The whole thing of spring was pointless.
Well, that's why
it's just kind of not sustainable.
Well, that's why they made the one portal, and we'll see what happens. But theoretically, everybody has their teams now, and we'll have it for spring. We'll see. They had proposed last year. We're getting way too in the weeds on this, but breaking spring football up into 2 parts based on whether or not there was going to be a spring portal or not. So, it's been discussed. That I don't think is that big of a deal. Moving up this, I talked to an administrator with a conference. They would like to start week 0. But we talked about this last week. You can't really change the back end. You're not changing rivalry week. Conference championships aren't going anywhere for now. The playoff is very complicated. But next year, we're going back to 1 bye because of how the calendar works. They would love to start week 0. Yeah, 14 weeks to play 12 games, however you want to do it. It opens up a lot of scheduling for everybody else. It gives players some extra rest. That stuff is honestly not that hard to change. The playoff stuff is hard to change. We don't need to repeat. If you want, the playoff stuff, go back to last week's episode. The last 20 minutes we get into it.
The coaches don't like a 3-week layoff. They would like to just go hey, rivalry week, championship week, and then let's get it going the next week for whatever the playoff field looks like. If you get a bye, that's only a 2-week layoff instead of a 3-week
that might happen,
layoff.
but that might happen only because we're expanding the playoff at some point.
Yes,
anyway. We're not moving
so
up quarterfinals. We're not moving.
The only thing that you run into with that is you have a Heisman problem and you have an Army-Navy problem. Those seem like
which has drawn the attention of the president.
Yeah. So, anytime we've got the president weighing in on college football calendar, we've sort of gone through the pale. But anyway, Chris, we missed you this year. They're moving the convention to Indianapolis and in February next year. So we will be cold, but I think there'll be a lot more coaches there because it should be at a pretty slow point in the calendar. I'm looking forward to it.
All right. I thought this episode was going to go 45 minutes. So, of course, it didn't because we never can.
It never does, Chris.
Right, we're going to end the show the way we always do, and that is by remembering some guys.
It's better than this. Guys being dudes.
I'm going to go with Jarrett Stidham, former Baylor and Auburn quarterback. As of Sunday, starting an NFL playoff game, he either played fantastic and the Broncos won a stunner to go to the Super Bowl, or he played terrible. And it was a pretty embarrassing performance. Just in your mind, cut out whichever one of those did not end up happening. But as Stidham was getting the start, I was remembering things he did in college at Auburn, which included in 2017, he beat number 1 Georgia and number 1 Alabama in a 3-game span.
I have no recollection of that at all.
This is the Auburn team that lost the SEC championship game and therefore lost out on the playoff that Alabama got in despite not winning its division. That Alabama went and won the championship. And this was the Auburn team that also lost to UCF in that Peach Bowl. But Jarrett Stidham always looked the part. Never quite sure why he fit in the Gus Malzahn offense, but he's still in the NFL, so clearly they see something.
He had a weird.
Either did really well or really poorly, depending on what happened.
He had a weird transfer experience because, so I'm old. I covered Jarrett Stidham's first college start. I believe it was his first start. Maybe it was just his first big game, but they played at Oklahoma State. They had an injury. I forget. I think it was Bryce Petty. But anyway, he got thrust into duty in the middle of the season, won that game, but then left, obviously, after all of the Baylor stuff. And then for the 2016 season, I believe he was just going to community college and just like working out by himself and managed to stay in shape, stay sharp, and then had a good Auburn career. But yeah, Jarrett Stidham, he's a guy that, like, if the portal rules were different, I think would have had a much easier career because, he was like a number one recruit overall, big time 5-star quarterback. Obviously looked like he was probably going to always go to Baylor, had a bunch of ties. There ended up, playing at Stephenville where Art Browse was from. And then after the Browse thing happened, kind of got thrown into a tough spot. So an interesting career. So
he's also adopted cousins of Sawyer Robertson, this year's Baylor quarterback.
David, doesn't he have, he has ties to Kim Mulkey, doesn't he? I believe he does, right? They're like in-laws or something. Anyway, I am going to remember a guy named Taj Boyd. Great quarterback at Clemson, the new quarterbacks coach at Clemson. He's been an offensive assistant there for a few years.
That was the real headline coming out of the Dabo press conference.
Yes, exactly. That Taj Boyd is going to be the quarterbacks coach under Chad Morris there. But it's interesting. The leading passer in Clemson history is not Trevor Lawrence. It is not Deshaun Watson, both national champions. It is Taj Boyd, who 3-year starter there. Threw for like 100 plus touchdowns, 107 touchdowns, ran for 26 touchdowns. He kind of got things started for Dabo at Clemson and kind of broke them through. And then obviously the program went to new heights, but All-American, ACC Player of the Year in 2012. Taj Boyd, we remember you. Very fun player, very good player on the video game as well. I think Clemson was my online team one of those years. I believe it was the CJ Spiller year. The year they had Spiller, and who was the other back that I'm forgetting? They had a Thunder and Lightning thing going on.
Yeah, I don't remember the name.
But anyway, I played with those guys online. I rocked the purple jerseys pretty frequently. And Clemson, man. How about it?
And now you're South Carolina, by the way. In the latest season of our media CFB 26 Dynasty, David is in the semifinals. With back. South Carolina, he's got about 50 players on his roster, but he's still probably the best player in our league. I've got to play today. I've got to play Charles McDonald.
Yeah.
I'm in the playoff in the quarterfinals. I'm Oklahoma. He's LSU. I don't love my chances, but we'll see where that goes.
I'm rooting for you, Chris. I'm rooting for you.
And listener Nick Kramer nominates former Stanford running back Toby Gerhart. Running back at Stanford in the late 2000s. Heisman finalist, I think he was.
I believe so.
This guy was a whole bunch of fun playing with Andrew Luck there as well. And who didn't love a big mashing running back? That's what Nick says. Great call.
Yeah, he had like he had some decent times in the NFL. I'm trying to think. Stanford's had a lot of white running backs that are good players.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of hard you don't see a lot of those these days.
Yeah, McCaffrey still in the league too. Mm-hmm. So there's that. We're running out of nominations from listeners, folks. So send us your nominations, bunchformationpod@gmail.com.
I'm going to get emails for that, Chris. Yeah.
Send us mailbag questions, what you want us to do in the offseason. We're still figuring out. David is traveling in the middle of the week. I don't know if we will do an episode for Thursday or not, David. Maybe we record like a themed episode. Something I want to get into is my TV survey I did.
Yeah.
Talk about our favorite college football announcers. Maybe
people got mad about Pat McAfee again. Yeah.
Maybe we just go off topic and do something like that. But we'll either do that this week or next week. Not sure. Depends on how the ice goes for this week. But we hope all of you are being warm. And that'll do it here. Thank you for listening and watching Bunch Formation. We'll be with you all off season. Yep. We're not going anywhere. Just might be a little more infrequent as we figure it out. But that'll do it here. For David Ubben, I'm Chris Vannini. We will talk to you pretty soon.
And if you don't want to throw an interception with the national championship on the line, bring back the turnover chain.
They would have won if they had it.
Obviously.